Hello friends, welcome to another video. I'm Jeanette with Vivo Vintage Designs. Yesterday I showed you how to create this card by cutting out all the little shapes and gluing them to the photo paper. Today I'm going to show you how to create this one using your alcohol ink dry palette, Posca pens, and MICRON pens. Also using the Ranger stamper to create the background. So here I'm adding lettuce, the color lettuce, to my stamper and a little bit of alcohol, and I'm going to stamp the background. And there's other inks, other colors of ink on that stamper. I saved the pads and I use different pads for different colors, so that way I'm not being wasteful. So now to create the branches of my Christmas tree, I'm using different shades of green. And you can see I'm using a small brush. And again, I'm using a dry palette. And the reason I prefer to use the dry palette is because I have more control of the inks. They don't bloom as much. I just dip my brush in a little bit of alcohol, and then you can see I dab it off, and I have more control. If you use too much alcohol on the brush, it will bloom. And if you use the ink straight out of the bottle, it can bloom also. So you're better off putting the ink down on a non-porous surface and possibly using a blow dryer or letting it dry on its own, and then using a brush to activate that ink, and that way you'll have more control. And I just showed you before on the first card that I did yesterday where I cut out the pieces and glued them, I hand wrote Merry Christmas, but I'm never satisfied with the way I write on these cards, so I decided to go buy some stamps, and I went to Michael's and they were having a sale, and I think each of the stamps I bought was originally $1.99, and I got them for $1, but I still stamped it crooked. I just can't get it right. So now I realized that the greens that I have in my dry palette are too light, so I took some Rainforest Green by Jacquard and I put it on my dry palette on the lid, and I used my dryer to blow dry it. Excuse me. And now you can see that that green is really showing up nicely. So by adding different colors to your pine needles, you create depth, and it just makes it look better. You can see how easily I'm creating these little these little pine needles. I'm just using the tip of the brush and flicking my wrist, starting at the center and going outward so that the tips of the needles kind of taper. And of course, if you want, you can take your time and be more detailed about it. So here I've completed all the branches that I want to complete. You can make them as long or as short as you want. You can fill up the paper with them, but I like to leave a little space at the bottom because that's where I add my greeting. And now I'm taking a Micron pen, that's a 0.5, and I'm adding some more lines into each of those branches just to create a little bit more depth and to make them stand out a little bit more. And again, I'm starting at the center and flicking it out so that the ends taper. And I'm not trying to be too careful because most of this will be covered up with the lights. So make sure before you start applying your Posca pen that the ink on your paper is completely dry. And make sure you shake your Posca pens. I always forget to do that. So here I'm creating the string for the lights. And I put a couple of loops in mine, but of course you don't have to do that. You can make yours any way you like. And I went over it twice because I wanted it to be a little bit thick. And before you start adding your lights, make sure that that silver is dry. And now to create these little lights, I started off with a little square, and then I did an oval that was wider at the base and then tapered at the tip. And of course, they're not all going to be exactly the same, but that's the beauty of a handmade card. I also noticed that some of these Posca pens are more opaque than others. So you can see that that yellow is not showing up as well as the green and the purple. And the orange was another one that came out a little streaky. So I just went over it a second time after it dried. And the lights I made on this one were smaller than the ones that I did on the first card. And I think that I like the larger bulbs better than the smaller ones. But of course, it's your card. You can add as many as you like. Okay, so here I've added all my lights, and now I'm going to, I grabbed the Micron pen, but I forgot that I did not add the gold to that little square at the top of the lights. And you don't have to add the gold. You can make it black. You don't have to do it at all, but I thought it was a nice little touch. Now I'm taking a Micron pen and I outlined all the bulbs. I used a 0.45. And now I'm trying to create the little lines in that part that connects to the string. But of course, I didn't wait for the gold to dry, so it's clogging up my Micron pen. So I'm just adding a little outline now to the string to make it stand out a little bit more, especially in the areas where it's on the background, because the silver is light and the background is light, so it doesn't show up as much, and I wanted it to stand out a little bit more. And here I am again, trying to go over that wet gold with the black Micron pen. Now I'm going to add a little highlight to each of the bulbs by using a white gel pen. And the way I did that was I started a line that was thicker at the top and tapered at the bottom, and then I added a little dot just underneath it. And I just added them on whatever side, doesn't matter. But adding that little white highlight really makes it pop. So now, here I am. I'm about to stamp it, and I actually stood up and convinced myself that I was going to get it straight. But I stood up to make sure that I was right over it. And guess what? I still got it crooked. But I'm still using these cards. So here they both are, and you can see side by side. I think I like the one with the larger bulbs better. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please give me a thumbs up, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye.